what to say about this one. Halloween Ends. What can I say? It's a movie. A good one, a bad one. To be honest, I don't know. It left me feeling a little like... But it also had me feeling a lot like... For this first part of the video, I'm not going to be delving too much into the plot and stuff of Halloween Ends, but I'll be giving a more broad review of this first part. So Halloween Ends, it's the final part of the new Halloween trilogy, which consists of Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, which are sequels to the original, which there's so many fucking timelines. It's not as bad as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it can get a little bit confusing. We're only focusing on the timeline that consists of these 4 movies right now for this video. As you all know, if you haven't seen any of these movies, Halloween takes place in 1979. Michael Myers escapes, attacks Laurie Strode and her friends, and is soon after taken into custody and locked up in Smith Grove, which leads into Halloween 2018, which is 40 years later, which where Michael Lee basically does a lot of the same things. He escapes and starts stalking around Haddonfield again, which then directly leads into Halloween Kills that same night as Halloween 2018, where I've reviewed it and talked about it, if you haven't seen that one. But as you may know from all the trailers and stuff, Halloween Ends, it takes place 4 years after Kills. We'll get more into that later. So my thoughts on it, it did a lot of unique and interesting things. Some of them felt very out of place and just strange. Like, I get the message they were going for with all the things they did in this one, but it just made it feel not as strange as Halloween 3 or Curse of Michael Myers, but it still was strange, very unexpected. There are some decently good stuff in this movie that I do like, but on the other side, we have stuff that's just like, what the fuck were they thinking? I'll say it did have a, for the most part, satisfying conclusion, for it being the conclusion to the whole series and all that stuff. There were some decent kills in it too, but I'll have to get more into this as I go into it in depth with the plot and stuff. Like, I don't know how to feel. I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it was all that good. But just don't get this out of the way. It was nowhere near the levels of sucktasticness as, like, Resurrection. Resurrection, that's... nothing will compare to that mess. Do I think it was better than Kills, though? Not really, no. I think Kills was definitely not the best movie in this trilogy. Best in the trilogy would be Halloween 2018, but Kills is better than Ends, I think, in my opinion. We're gonna go ahead and get into the plot of all this. So if you haven't seen the movie, now's the time to hop off the video and go see it. It's on Peacock and it's in theaters right now. Once you've seen it, come back and watch this last part. So the movie, it starts off a year later, Halloween night 2019, and we meet this character that has not been introduced in any of the previous 2 movies, which was one of the flaws, I think. If they would have introduced this character in either 2018 or Kills, it would have had more of an impact. So we meet the character of Corey, who is babysitting this little boy, Jeremy, and they're talking about Michael Myers and all that, and Corey goes to the kitchen, rummaging through the fridge and stuff, and he hears Jeremy, and he thinks something's wrong, and Jeremy locks him in the attic and won't let him out. This part, this may make me seem like a bad person, but this part had me laughing. I don't know what made this so funny, but it did. But Corey busts the door down and it smacks. So the parents live in this like mansion, almost like ridiculous, like a spiral staircase going up, and one of those types of mansions you'd see in a movie that I'm pretty sure most of us have never even seen in person before. But so the door hits the little boy that Corey's babysitting, Jeremy, sends him flying over the rail from the top to the ground right as his parents walk in. And so the parents are assuming Corey had murdered him on purpose, which is a big plot point of this movie, which is where it falls. So Corey is taken into custody, then it cuts to present time about 3 years later, right now in 2022. And throughout the whole movie, Laurie, she's writing a book detailing her events with Michael and all of her encounters as a survivor and all that stuff. So Laurie has purchased a house in Haddonfield, and Allison, her granddaughter, is living with her and currently working in the hospital or something, medical field, nurse or whatever. But the first part of the movie revolves around Corey and Allison in this like love story, like relationship stuff, which it's not, I wouldn't say it completely destroys the movie, but it's not I'm not whole big on it, because, you know, if we would have met Corey a movie or two later, it would have been more impactful. Be like, oh, it's that guy, but we just meet him in this movie, and it's like, why are we focusing on this guy we've never met before in these movies? So, like, everyone in town, they label him as this psychopath who kills kids and a murderer, not knowing that it was an accident, and just all kinds of crazy shit. So Corey, he's having issues with these high school kids or something. There's this whole thing that goes on at multiple points in the movie where Corey is having these issues with these 4 like high school kids or something, where they keep fucking with him for the incident that happened with Jeremy, saying that he's a psycho baby killer and calling him a pedo and stuff. The first instance, he gets mad and smashes the bottle he has in his hand and cuts his hand off, so Laurie comes and gets the kid to stop, and she takes him to where Allison works at the hospital or wherever. They get him fixed up and tries hooking him and Allison up, in which they eventually do, and she gets feelings for him and stuff, but he's slowly declining mentally because of all the things that the people are saying about him being a killer and stuff, and how he killed the kid and all that. So one night after a party they go to, he gets upset and leaves, and is jumped by the group of high schoolers again and thrown off a bridge, where he's knocked unconscious and he's dragged into a pipe sewer system by Michael, where Michael grabs him and looks into his eyes or something and see that I guess he sees he's mentally fucked up like him or something, I don't know. So after that, Corey crawls out of the pipe sewer systems, and there's this homeless man that they showed earlier that lives right there near it, and he tries to stab Corey, but Corey fights him back and takes back his knife and kills the homeless guy. And he starts to go downhill, and he starts having the evil, as Laurie would say. The whole plot with Corey and him mentally breaking down and that evil taking control of him. The whole plot of that, when I first saw this, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Where's Michael? Why is Michael barely in this? Is this going to be a copycat killer movie or something like that? And which it turned out to somewhat be, but you knew it was him. Or when Corey and Allison are on a date or whatever, out getting food at a diner, Allison's ex or whatever, this officer guy she used to date, sheriff, whatever you want to call him, comes up and is messing with them and stuff, and he realizes who Corey is, and they just decide to leave, and he takes Allison home, and I honestly can't remember him because he's only in like 2 scenes or so, but he follows Corey, and Corey lures him to the sewers where he helps Michael kill him. And that's when you first start to see, oh, Michael as a sidekick, and it's just weird because why give Michael a quote-unquote, like, sidekick? Like, that's not Michael Myers. Why are you teaming this kid up with Michael Myers to kill people? I just don't understand it. So Laurie, she starts to catch on with this whole thing where the evil is corrupting Corey, and she tries to warn Allison to stay away from him so she doesn't get hurt. Eventually we see Corey, earlier at the party that he was at with Allison, he had this scarecrow mask that she picked out for him. He takes it the next day and he goes and stalks the doctor that Allison works for, and one of her co-workers who she's having an affair of sleeping with her boss to get the spot she wants, you know. And so Corey stalks them and he kills the doctor, and then Michael comes in and kills the, whatever her name is, redhead nurse lady. He finally snaps and he takes the mask from Michael and whatever, and goes on a killing spree dressed as Michael. Which, this part, I like some of the kills were decent kills, but the fact that it's not Michael, and again, so far we've only seen Michael kill 2 people. Well, Corey's killed, let's see. He killed Jeremy, he killed the doctor, he killed the homeless guy, that's 3. He then proceeds to lure the 4 kids that have been bugging him the whole movie to where he works at this junkyard, scrapyard engineering place where they work on cars and scrap cars, where then he's in a boiler suit with the Myers mask, and he proceeds to kill all 4 of the teenagers, and one of them accidentally kills, I don't know if it's his stepdad or something, but his mom is with him or whatever. Then he proceeds to go kill the radio DJ and his assistant, and killing his mother. So look, that's already about like 8 kills by Corey, and Michael's only got about 2 so far this entire movie, and it's like, what are you doing? Why are you giving all the kills to this dude that we just met at the beginning of this movie? And the kills aren't bad. They're pretty creative. I like the way he kills the radio DJ. He bashes his head repeatedly into the turntable, and his mouth is all fucked up and just some great looking shit. And he proceeds to take some scissors and cut his tongue off, and his tongue is on the record as it's spinning around and keeps interrupting the songs. It hits the needle, And it could be heard on the radio when it cuts to Allison in her car as she's waiting at the diner for Corey, but he doesn't show up because he's out killing people. He then proceeds to go to Lori's house and tries to get her, but Lori, you know, being Lori, saw it coming. She knew he was coming to try and kill her, and she stops him, and as Allison pulls up the house, he takes the knife and stabs himself in the neck, killing himself, and Allison comes in thinking that Lori did it, so she takes off upset and drives off. And that's when the real Michael shows up, gets his mask on, and we finally have what was showed to us in the previews of that final epic battle between Lori and Michael. And they're fighting throughout her house in the kitchen and stuff. And previously, before Corey got there, Lori had called in for a suicide. She was baiting Corey into coming up the stairs. She was faking a suicide. Frank, the officer from the previous two movies, the Halloween 2018, where we thought he was killed, then we find out he was the one who brought in Michael back in 78. He calls Allison and saying that he heard that Lori had called in a suicide, and so she rushes back, and Michael's about to kill Lori, but she gets back and stops him, and they cut his throat, and he's have him pinned down to the table by his hands with knives. And then they slit his wrist, and that's when Frank, Officer Hawkins, comes in and see that it's Michael. So this last, 30 minutes or so is when the movie gets at its peak. The way this ends, with this being the, big conclusion of the whole series, it's not that bad. We could say Michael is definitively dead. He's gone. There's no coming back after this. They proceed to take Michael, and with the whole town rally behind him, they tie him up on top of Allison's car and drive down to the scrapyard, where we had earlier seen a foreshadowing with them doing a shot of some of the workers putting metal through the big grinder thingy where they break down the metal and all that, and the cars and parts and all that. They proceed to take them, and Lori pushes them into the metal grinder machine, and it just, like a fucking pimple or a balloon filled with water, Michael just explodes into a bunch of blood and is all grounded up, which is probably the deadest he's ever been in any of the Halloween movies. Which, not bad way to end him off and end the franchise. Which is what gave this some redeeming qualities and made this not an absolute train wreck like previous entries in the franchise. We then end with Lori finally finishing her book she's been writing the whole movie. We see Allison, she's finally leaving Haddonfield to go start a new life, and Frank and Lori, they share a little moment together before it resembles the ending of the original 78 movie, where you hear him breathing and you see the camera shots lingering through that different locations. It goes through the different rooms of the house, and it's just silent. And you see that Lori has his mask on the table. Song Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult plays, and credits. I'd say as a way to conclude the whole franchise, it was a fairly solid attempt at it. It wasn't bad. There were those little things here and there, but I enjoyed it. It was an enjoyable movie. If I was to rank it out of 10, it would probably be 6. Which is way better than the least popular movies in the series. Because I'd say Kills was about a 7, and 2018 was about an 8, and the original, that's obviously a 10 out of 10 right there. But it wasn't a horrible way to end the whole series on. I mean, if you have any other opinions about what you think about it, please let me know in the comments below. Try to keep it civil. Don't argue. It's just a movie. We're all fans here. Just let me know what you thought. What you liked, what you didn't like, and all that stuff. Let me know on Twitter. Let me know in the comments. But I hope you enjoyed this episode of Horror Review. And until next time, be good and stay spooky. Bye, guys.